Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 151 of the I Rock Knits podcast. And I am in my hometown of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, at the new yarn store that has been in business since
November of 22.
Yeah.
So 19 months, 20 months?
Yeah, it's so exciting. There was a yarn shop here for many years, and I had taught there in an older home, and that yarn shop went away, and then Jane decided to open this one. And so this is my friend Jane Taylor, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
I'm really glad to be
you
here.
Could come down.
I know. So it was Father's Day, and then my parents' anniversary is this week on the 25th. And so I said to Ross, we really should get to Sioux Falls more often.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Mom's 85, Dad's 90. And so we should try to just get down there and see them more often. And so he's like, okay, yeah, we could go down for their anniversary. And I said, ding, ding, ding. If I'm going, I'm doing this new segment called Chatting with Friends. And let me see if Jane is willing to come on the podcast.
Yeah.
So we met a number of years ago. When I wrote my first knitting pattern book, Jane was a former librarian. And you know my brother Jeff.
I do.
And Jeff watches.
Hi, Jeff.
And he likes the book recommendations, and he used to love the recipes. And I haven't done recipes for a long time because the podcasts are getting so long. But he will watch, and so he is a city planner here in town.
Right,
so
still is, yeah.
Yep, you knew that he knew of him, and then
well, I think he contacted my boss and said, "Hey, my sister wrote a book." And I was in charge of some adult programming, so she told me, and then we started.
And you were a knitter.
Yes,
You
and
know.
that's how it landed in my lap.
Yes,
because I was already a knitter.
Right. Yeah.
So right
and you,
alley.
I would say, you have been a knitter with a capital K for many years.
Well, actually, I didn't start till 2006, so not even 20 years. But I've been a serious knitter.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm one of those people that once I found it.
Went all in.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
So I came down and did a book talk, and it was really funny because I feel like the weather was bad. Was it winter? It was maybe cold or something?
Cold.
And the whole back row was my family.
It's okay.
They all came and sat in the back row to support me, which was lovely. But it was kind of funny because it is my hometown, but this is a big city. I don't think a lot of people know. Because I think people think of South Dakota as being a rural state. I don't think they realize that Sioux Falls is a big city.
It's a metropolitan area.
Right,
really.
right. So there are 4 high schools in town.
Right, 4 high schools, and then, multiple library branches, couple malls.
Yes. It's surrounded by interstates that run north and south and east and west. So major thoroughfares of traffic go past Sioux Falls. So it is definitely what you would think of as a much bigger town than people from around America. And then I have people internationally that watch the podcast who would just not even have any idea where South Dakota was, except it might be in the middle of something, right? So yeah, it is. But I did grow up here. At the time, there were only the 2 high schools. I mean, O'Gorman, Washington, Lincoln. So I did go to Lincoln. Did you grow up in Sioux Falls?
I grew up in Sioux City, so just down the road.
Okay.
90 miles south. So I was familiar. We had cousins here. You went to school with one of my cousins, actually.
Oh, okay.
Remember Lisa?
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that. You were in her wedding even, I think. And we started talking about it.
And she was in mine. She fainted in my wedding, actually. And I was just telling Kylie that story because my daughter Kylie's getting married in December. We went to look at flowers on Monday, and for some reason, and Kylie's having one attendant stand up for her college roommate and best friend, and I said, well, something about it, and then Kylie's like, isn't she the one that went down? And I'm like, yes. So it was a more evening wedding. It was very hot, May 31st, super hot. Yes, very hot, like 90 degrees. Ross golfed, got so sunburned, and it was a 6:30 wedding in an unair conditioned church, and the bridesmaids had little candles in the middle of their flower arrangements, little votives. And all of a sudden I hear this rocking of this candle inside this votive, and I'm like, uh-oh. And it's on video, and you see me go slow motion, right? And she just went down. But the candle was important because you do not want to start the church on fire during your wedding, right? So yes, Lisa, we went to high school and college together because she went to Mankato. Yep. Yeah. So
anyway. There's other connections too. You know, I think South Dakota Sioux Falls is a big city, but South Dakota seems like such a small state in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where
definitely.
We find so many connections that we know this person or that person, and
yeah, definitely. For sure, it definitely feels like a smaller community of people when you come home and know that. And my dad and mom have been here
forever,
all these years. So
know a lot of people.
Sure.
Yeah,
so
and I've only been here since 1990, but you know, I had a very public job, so I ended up knowing
a lot of people. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And your career as a librarian ended. You retired.
Yes.
And then decided to open the yarn store. And had that been a plan for quite a while?
So yes, when I learned to knit and kind of went all in, I'm like going, you know, I get to retire when I'm 55. What do I want to do? I mean, that's young.
Yes.
And my husband, we had this early retirement thing, and we got this extra stipend, and I'm like, well, you know what? I'm gonna take that extra stipend, and I'm gonna go open a yarn store, and it just became what it is. You know, all the skills that I had from managing a branch library in town and managing people and managing product and merchandising and all that stuff that went into the library just kind of easily transferred into this.
And the hours. Because that you were expected to be, open. And so you already had that kind of as a natural
I knew that
background.
And working with the public.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
I mean, I had that background for many, 31 years. So that part didn't bother me. But I knew when I opened that I could set my own hours. So I'm like, oh, I don't have to be open Sunday. Oh, I don't have to be open Monday. I can take these days off. And
yes.
Yeah. So it worked out for the best. And my former boss retired not too long after. So when I need time off, she just works for me. Oh. So it worked out perfectly.
Yeah, and I think that is a dream of a lot of people. Not a goal, but a dream of a lot of people. Like, oh, in my retirement, I'm going to sit and knit in my own yarn store.
You don't get to sit and knit,
right? But right,
some days you do.
That is the thought that, oh my goodness. And I think most people who frequent yarn stores know the reality of the fact that the yarn store owner is never sitting and knitting, right? Like, you probably do less knitting now that you own the shop than you did before? I
do more knitting certain times of the day. Other times I'm either ordering or rearranging or planning classes or there's always something, cleaning. I mean, you've got to do all of that, bookkeeping. Social media. Takes up time.
I know. My husband says to me, it just makes me so sad that you work so hard and you make no money. Because there is always something to be done, right?
Oh yeah.
Like I'm right now I'm doing the hustle for fall classes. I'm sending out tons of emails and I'm asking people, do you want to set something up before I get too busy? And then I'm still doing my social media, and all my designs that are coming live for fall have to be written now. And so you're always working ahead, a season ahead of where you want to have people. And so I totally get it. But there is always something that can be done.
Oh yeah.
I'm always like, today he was like, are you ready to go? I'm like, no, I have to send one more email. And he's like, oh, okay,
Well, and I'm not knitting for myself much anymore. It feels like I'm knitting for the shop.
For sure, samples.
So there was a couple this last spring, I'm like, oh, I have to knit this sample. and I shouldn't feel that way about knitting. I love knitting. And I have people who do crochet samples for me, so I don't have to do those. And I do have a couple other people that will do samples, but I feel like, if I'm working with something, I want to work with it so I know what it's like, so I can tell people what it's like.
Exactly what I was going to say. You don't want to sell yarn that you haven't knit with much, right? Like you want to kind of know the properties of the yarn and have felt it and said, oh, I made this and, this is how it turned out and this is how it worked. Yeah, for sure.
You need to know your product. And if you don't use your product, how can you know what it's going to do?
Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel. That's kind of like the reading thing. I always read with the library too, and you want to know, you want to be able to recommend something. And that's how I feel comfortable recommending something.
Yeah, definitely. So how long before you retired did you really have that niggling?
Oh, jeez.
Like, did you kind of have a
at
plan
least,
for a while?
yes, I
or
did.
just
I
was
was
it
like
getting
8
close
years.
and you were like, oh, okay.
No. It was not too long after I learned to knit and really went all in. So I went in 2006, so probably even 2012.
Okay.
When the kids were in grade school, I'm thinking, okay, what I'm going to do once they're gone and once I can retire. And I love fiber, like the textile and the color. And so it just, yeah, I kind of knew pretty early on after I started knitting that I wanted to do that. Yeah. And even long before I retired. Because I told people I was going to do it. I told people at the library, hey, by the way, when I retire, I'm going to open this yarn shop.
I did that for many years.
And then I had to do it, though.
Exactly, with being a knitwear designer. I did the same thing. I said it out loud. I said, I had written a couple patterns, but I was saying, I'm going to be a knitwear designer. I'm going to write knitting patterns. This is really what I want to do. I want to invest time in this industry. And I talked about it for a long time. So when did you find the space?
Oh, like 3 months before I opened.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to find a space and be in love with it and knowing that wasn't going to be ready.
Right.
So I waited until we did all of my sabbatical year that I took and knew that, I'd start looking about July, August.
Yep.
And then I found this place on the first day.
Oh, okay.
I did. I was just like, this first day we looked and I walked in and said, yeah. This is perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect location, perfect size of space. Because I had done some recon up in the cities and went to a bunch of yarn shops, talked to owners.
Yep.
That's the other thing. I didn't know like square foot because I can't visualize that.
No, yeah.
So I went to several yarn shops, talked to owners, asked them square footage, looked at what I liked about their shop, made notes, what I didn't like. And so I kind of went in knowing the square footage that I wanted, the price point that I wanted to be at, just the physical location.
Yeah.
I had an idea in my head.
Yeah. So we are right off a main thoroughfare, 41st Street through Sioux Falls, but also the interstate runs right out there. A mile maybe to the exit, maybe at all. And a huge parking lot with many other things around and flat entry. Yeah.
Easy access. Knowing my clientele was probably going to be a little bit older, I knew I needed to have parking that was no steps into the building.
Yeah, for sure. So this piece here is just amazing when you come into this. So this previously was
a jewelry store.
Yeah.
At one point.
And it's very modern but light. So we are looking at a bank of windows in front of us, and then when you walk in, the space feels very different than any yarn store I've been in, because a lot of them are either strip mall modern or old brick building, brick walls, whatever, and have been made to accommodate for good light. This had you walk in and it's open and light, and the lights are all, there are so many lights, and it's awesome.
Yeah. And I have two windows. I have a south facing window and a west facing window. So I always have natural sunlight through here, or natural light coming in this shop. So that was one of my goals, was to come in, feel like, walk in, take a breath, and just like take it all in. Yeah. Without feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted.
Because you do not have yarn to the ceiling.
No.
You don't have samples in aisles that make it feel claustrophobic, or nothing's too close together. There's lots of space. It's just lovely. It's a really lovely space.
Thank you.
When you decided to open and you got your space, how was it doing the inventory startup? Kind of like, do you just contact a couple of people and then you just say, this is what I can buy? Like this is an interesting experience. Right. I haven't talked to someone who opened a yarn store
from
literally
scratch
since the pandemic, right? Who didn't get yarn from somewhere else, or buy it from a yarn store owner, or like that, taking on a business right after the pandemic. I find that fascinating.
It was from scratch. Yeah. I started with yarns that I liked. So I knew I wanted Cascade 220. I knew I wanted Let Lopi. So I contacted those companies first. Yeah. I knew I wanted brown sheep. So, because I like certain lines of theirs.
Yep.
So those were the lines that I wanted to start with. And then I had a friend who was a hand dyer, and I told her at Zombie Knitpocalypse that, you know, when I open my shop, would you be willing to sell me yarn? And so she sent me yarn. And then, you know, other people mentioned other yarn companies that I contact, like Mono Still Uruguay. And so some of those were just like, this is my aesthetic. This is what I want to have in the shop. So
that is a beautiful segue into your trip.
Oh yeah.
Because so you need to go over and follow Jane on Instagram, but
Yes.
Jane took an amazing trip. An amazing trip.
Yeah.
So tell us just a bit about that.
So one of my Mono Still Uruguay is a Hands of Uruguay. So it's a cooperative out of Uruguay, beautiful country. Little small country between Argentina and Brazil, if you don't know where it's at. It's a little grape down there. And they have every year, so if you want to sign up, go to their website, and they have a newsletter. You can go on this 10-day trip and visit where they actually hand dye their yarns. You get to visit the wool warehouse, and where they process some of their wool, and it was amazing. Food was good, people were wonderful. The cooperative ladies that work in these places, and they're rural places. Yeah. So for me, being from South Dakota, this really hit home to have jobs for these people, these women, to raise their families up in a rural location, because that doesn't happen in rural places. So that part was wonderful. And then the landscape was, you know, like home. It was ranch land. Yeah. Ranch land with Angus beef and and horses. And,
so how many people went?
There was 26 in the tour. So it was a nice size. People from all over the country. Met people, somebody from Canada, people from East West Coast, California, Minnesota. Yeah. So that part was fun. Yeah. To meet other, and another yarn shop owner that is in Philadelphia. So there was two yarn shop owners, her and me. So Wild Hand is the name of her shop. So
good. I'm going to Philadelphia at the end of July to teach at Yarn Fest.
Oh, okay.
So I'll have to look up the yarn store.
Look up the yarn store.
For sure. I just booked my flight this morning and reaching out to some teachers to see if we can share a ride. But let's talk just a minute about what we're wearing. Okay. And then we'll talk about your favorite knits of all time.
All right.
So I'm wearing my Pippin Poncho. I've worn this a number of times, I think, on the podcast. It is easy to throw on over something, and this is Knit Circus yarn, and I used a highly speckled yarn, and it's the same stitch pattern for the whole thing. You make this little piece, and then it's just a rectangle. So super easy to put together, and I have two. I have one in yellow and this one. Wear it quite a bit, but as soon as I walked in, I knew Jane had on one of my designs, and that's just who she is. I was like, how nice is that, right?
So I have the Knitting at the Library Cowl, the first one. I did it in Suburban Stitcher yarn that I picked up at Zombie one year. So I really like the colorways. It's really a fun knit.
And I've so made soft. Her yarn is lovely, and
I've made this at least 3 times. And then I've done the part 2 at least 2 times. So
so that was originally it's a sampler with different stitch patterns that you can either do once or repeat, and so there's a different textured. So these are all textured stitch patterns. The only reason I wrote it is because the knitters at the library knit hats, and then they wanted to do beyond beginning knitting class, and I'm like, well, I can write up a little textured knit in the round. They can try some easy stitches.
This sells very well in the shop too, because newer knitters like doing it.
The next step, like what can I do? Because you could do the same textured stitch in a different color for all. You wouldn't have to do all of them, and I tried to keep them real simple, but then when they got done with that, then they wanted lace. So then I did Knitting at the Library part 2, and I did a sampler with 4 little lace sections. So it was just like a little stepping stone, and honestly, still one of my most popular patterns, because after I designed it, I found out how many knitters knit at the libraries. That's where knitting groups meet. And naming it Knitting at the Library caused people who knit at the library to be like, we should knit that as a group. And I had no idea that would also help in its advertising and its publicity. At the time, I was just writing it up for those ladies. And so it can be done in any weight of yarn, worsted to fingering. It is written for both of those weights, so it you know,
and you can do it in a DK or sport. You
it'll turn out a little bigger. Yeah. But
fun.
it is, and I've talked about it on the podcast before, but it is kind of a nice one to just throw around your neck and fit, you know, fingering weight is lightweight and kind of nice. So it looks really cute. I do like the colors that you used.
So, yeah, it was fun.
Okay, so she is going to share with us some of her favorite knits of all time, like we do on this podcast.
I remember every name.
And if we don't, I'll look them up and I'll put it down below. I can edit. You know, we can look them up on our phones as we sit here if we can't find them. So it won't be a problem.
I remember most of them.
I'm sure you do, because there are probably a lot of them.
I wear them.
Things that people ask you about in the shop. So then you kind of have an encyclopedia of
them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start with one of my all-time favorites. And it was a knit that I've always wanted to do, which was an all-over cabled cardigan.
Yep.
And this is my absolute, I love this cardigan.
Dream of many a knitter to say, someday I'm going to knit this thing. Yep.
So this is the Fiadh by Olive Knits. And it is bottom up.
Oh, okay.
With pockets. You put those in later, so they've got little pockets. Bottom up all the way to, so it's seamless. No seams.
Okay.
Here,
and you knit your sleeves.
And then you do a shoulder saddle there. But this was, I color-coded the charts, and it was just so fun. And it was one of her
and there's a
workshops.
lot going on in it.
And there's so much going on.
Many different.
Keeps you busy.
Yeah.
And then I just love the back.
Yeah.
Can you see that on the?
Yeah, and we can hold it up really
so
close.
Look at those cables.
So you used a tweedy yarn. That's what kind of gives it also that visual appeal, I think, because to me, tweed just always seems cozy. Like a tweed yarn. I just am finishing a striped sweater out of the tweed, and I think you're going to swear the daylights out of this, Cori. Tweed always... tweed
is a weakness of mine.
But it does have an added kind of visual effect to... what could otherwise be a flat yarn, right? Not that this wouldn't have been beautiful, but the tweed adds something to it for sure.
Yeah, it's lovely. It's an Aran weight tweed. So, yeah, I love this sweater.
Yeah, it's really nice.
It has to be cold though.
Some really pretty bobbles down the front too that aren't on the back.
No, they're not on the back because you're not going to sit.
You got lots of stuff going on to kind of, look at this braid too.
Yeah,
there's
braid,
a lot of
and then there's seed stitch in there and little wavy cables on the back, and it's just there's two little,
nice.
It was fabulous.
Really,
I'm very proud of it.
And you should be. No, you should be. And I just the same thing happened with my last podcast with Suzanne. She said the same thing. I always wanted to knit this sweater. I never knew if I would step there. It was the one by Hohi. And she's like, it took me almost a year. Like it was a long process for me to kind of get through it. And so she said, she said it is one of the ones that I'm most proud of because it was something I really wanted to do, and I knew it would be a bit of a challenge, but I wanted to take that on.
Yeah.
And I think that that's awesome that you both showed something that you really had that passion for. That's cool to me.
And so this is another Marie Greene Olive Knits, but this one's a little bit simple cable. This was one of my first cable sweaters. So you have the cables, but you have rest. So it's not quite as intense as the other one. I used a 3 Irish Girls superwash. Guinness, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's my
lovely.
Don't look at that. But nobody looks inside yours. And it's a top down raglan.
But that's really cool how this goes right into a V-neck. That's really a neat
and even the bottom,
feature.
That detail on the bottom where the cable just goes right into your ribbing.
Yep.
So it's, that attention to detail on it that really makes it
Which honestly is not difficult to do, except when you try to do it for a ton of sizes. The sizes can so throw you on that. Like you think, because I've done this, I'm going to design this and I'm going to do that on a hat. And then as soon as I go from the child to the adult extra large, like you have to adjust your cable for how that makes that happen. And so it's amazing when a designer does it. It's far more amazing than one would think.
And this one had the cable down the side too, so it kept that sleeves interesting. You didn't feel like you were on Sleeve Island because you had something to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that's really pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love it. Oh, and all the way across the back is plain. So that's that's really really nice.
And it's great for a hand dyed because you get a cable, but it's not so busy. You can't have a super busy yarn, but you can have a hand dyed that's gonna pop.
Party in the front on this one.
Party in the front.
Right.
You know, I'm looking at all my sweaters, and most of these I've knit in the last 5 years. I was doing some looking, and I'm like going, holy cow.
Well, I think that's pretty common because because I think we wear our newer things, and they're new. They feel new and fresh. Not that we don't wear our old stuff, but I do think that some of my favorites are the things that I became a big girl knitter. Like, I know my body now. I know my likes. I know my dislikes. And I look back at some of the things I knit in the past, and I wouldn't knit those anymore. I made them maybe for a trend or with yarn I had, but I wasn't really sure about. And I don't make those choices anymore.
Right.
We make
different choices. Yeah.
Does it?
Yeah.
Like, I think I'm similar in that way.
Right.
Like,
so that one was the Brookings. I forgot to say the name of that one.
Were you drawn to that because of Brookings, South Dakota?
No, because I didn't go to school at SDSU.
No. Yeah, but it's right up the road.
I went to school in Vermilion.
Okay. Well, then that makes sense. My brother went to SDSU, which is in Brookings, South Dakota State University, and it's in Brookings. So there are 2 major institutions in South Dakota for learning. There are a lot, but the one is an hour north of Sioux Falls, and one of is an hour south of Sioux Falls. And often when you go to college from Sioux Falls, there is a definite rivalry, right, between USD, University of South Dakota, and SDSU. My dad is a huge Jackrabbit. Well, you know, he went there. My brother went there, right? And so the SDSU is big. And so when you said Brookings, it's the first thing that popped into my mind, because I didn't go there either, but that makes sense.
Yeah. I just like the design. I like the classic designs.
It's very pretty.
So this one's called Sigríður. It is out of the art of circular yolks. It is a color work, multi-color work. I've done other color work where I have only done like 2 colors.
I love this. Oh my gosh, this is going in my queue.
It's a lovely pattern.
When I get home.
And I did a color, when I printed it, the color work, I colored it in.
Yes.
So I knew the colors were going to play right with each other.
Yes.
Because it was blues and stuff in the book, in the pattern, and I didn't want those colors, so I went this route. And has little pockets.
They're really cute.
It's super cute. A little crop sweater. I wear a little white button down under it all the time. It's one of my favorite go-tos, and it's so light.
What weight is it?
It's sport.
I was gonna say it didn't feel like fingering, but I didn't really look. I was just I was too intent on that yoke.
And this is Swan's Island.
In multiple colors at home because I got to go there.
Yeah, right. Did you do sport?
Summer. I'm not sure what I bought, but
I bet you could make it work.
I might have bought. I know it's not worsted. It might be fingering, but I bet I could still make it work.
Yeah, you could make it work.
And it's like purpley raspberry, and then oh gosh darn, I love that yarn. I love their yarn. It reminds me of just a good woolly wool. Yeah,
it is, and it's sturdy. And this even has a little detail. Well, what's really cool about it, when I ordered it, it said from sheep in South Dakota. So Rambouillet, South Dakota, and then they milled it over in Maine, and then I got it back to South Dakota. So I thought
that is actually happening to me in this moment. I got yarn support from Brooklyn Tweed. The yarn came. And the yarn came from South Dakota.
Yeah.
And
isn't that awesome?
It's their arbor. And I was like, oh. And it won't matter to anybody that I designed this hat with this yarn. Right. But to me, it like, that's my home state. Yes. That's really neat. So thanks for telling. How did you hear about Swan's Island?
I do Marie Greene's knit camp. Yeah. And she was talking about different yarns, and she likes scratchy woolly wool, which is my favorite too. And she mentioned them, and they were having a sale, and I'm like, I'm gonna go on and see. Yes. And then I found the sweater pattern, and I'm like, oh,
because we bought a blanket when we were there. We bought one of their woven blankets, and that she let us look in the back at the mill and stuff. It was really neat. How long have you been doing Marie Greene's knit camp?
Since the very beginning.
Wow.
July of 19, I think she started.
Yeah. She has grown.
I discovered
that
her
thing into like she is an institution now, right? Like with the have you are you knitting the new? I assume the 4-day Cowl.
Yeah,
coming up.
It's over there for the shop.
Right. No, I mean I would assume you would have to because I know you're
I'm almost done.
because I know you had hers from last year. I mean I remember that, and then I think people who really follow her. My friend Renee, who has been on the podcast, came to knitting on Thursday with her yarn choices for that the new vest. I think she calls it a shell, but
I don't know what she calls it.
But it's sleeveless.
Yes, it's sleeveless.
It's sleeveless.
Lots of sleeveless out there right now. Oh my gosh, sleeveless is huge.
I have a design coming for this fall that's going to be really cute. I hope if I get the other things that are in front of it. Yeah. I think it's great because you don't have to knit as much.
I discovered her because I was looking for a cardigan pattern, a simple cardigan with just a little bit of something. So I found her Stillwater and I made it.
I do know that one.
And then all of a sudden at that exact time, she was starting to advertise this knit camp coming up. And I thought, I don't do a lot of other things. And I really liked her aesthetic because it's kind of classic.
It is.
And that's me.
Yep.
Kind of classic aesthetic. And I just went with it. Hi.
What time it is? I'm sorry.
Do you need anything?
So tell me what sweater camp or summer camp Marie Greene's camp is about. Because if we bring it up, then people will ask me, and I haven't done it, so I don't expect you to be like
completely
pimping out her, right? Like, but what made you think to do it, and what is it? Because it's still going on. It's still ongoing.
Yeah, it's an annual subscription basically. And I started in 19 when it started. So because I liked her aesthetic, so I found her sweater, and she was starting to promote it. And so I signed up, and I've signed up every year. So you get a pattern a month with it. So each month you get a free pattern.
All year.
All year.
Wow.
You get the 4-day knit along. You get online Zooms. You get, she does a retreat, like an online retreat, which started because of COVID. In September, you get a free day of other people coming in and doing online Zoom classes. Yeah, classes.
Okay.
So you get all of that with your annual membership.
Okay, so it's like a 1-year commitment.
Yeah, right.
But you get to choose what you want. But you get
and then you get all her workshops and all of her little tips and tricks and all those videos and stuff too. So and there's a community. So she has her own app, and there's a online community that kind of like Facebook only for them.
Yeah, I was going to say it started. Didn't she start on Facebook, or doesn't she have?
She did have it Facebook to start with, but then she kind of dropped that because she could do this in a more private way, which a lot of people want. People don't always want to be on Facebook.
Right. Yeah.
So she went to this other private. Private way to do it.
We got interrupted, but I thought I should ask just so that people don't ask me and I go, well, I think you just pay some money, you get some stuff. Like that's kind of what I know. I get her emails and I know that she's doing stuff, but I don't have all the details on that. So okay, we can move on to your next.
So the next one I just made a couple months ago, and it took me a week. And it's called the Low Key.
You're speaking our language.
The Low Key Vest by Elizabeth Smith. Somebody on our trip had it.
I love her designs. I think she has a really interesting aesthetic that is different than other people's. And not that it's not classic, but it's not traditionally classic.
No.
She does a lot of really interesting design.
Yeah. So somebody on the trip had this on. And I asked her, okay, well, that's what happens when you go on a trip and you meet people. I'm like, what are you wearing? And she said, well, it's the low-key vest. And you can see that it's got these pearl bumps through it. It's a bottom up. I love how she did the split hem here because you knit. It's not like open. You actually knit together 2 or 3 stitches. So
do you want to go check?
Nah, it's okay.
Okay.
I locked the door. It's off.
Okay. Yeah, 6:30.
So yeah. It's
and you used Originally Lovely yarn.
yes.
And she lives right by me.
Oh, she does.
Yes, and I have not met her in person, but I want to have her on the podcast.
Okay.
Because she started her own yarn brand, and does design work. And I'm kind of originally a big crocheter, does knit too, but a lot of crochet stuff. So do you carry this?
I have the Lana in stock.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, just call Jane and tell her how many skeins you want
Yep.
to make this up, because when you said I made it in just no time, that's a lovely thing to. You could also hold some yarns double to get that Aran weight in from your stash, because I do hear people say
You could use two sports.
You own Aran, right? Like, and then you say make it like if you don't have an income that allows you to purchase yarn for everything you want to knit, and you have some stash, make your own skeins, right? Like figure out how to hold it.
Well, and Aran's hard to come by. It's not extremely popular. So we're starting to see more of it. As a shop owner, I'm starting to see more companies start to carry it.
Well, it's a faster knit for people.
But it's not bulky either.
Right.
It's not that bulky.
Yes.
But it's faster than worsted. So yeah, I was extremely happy with this one. So yeah.
Super cute.
Recommend the pattern, recommend the yarn.
Yeah.
So this is the Vivi, this is a Marie Greene one.
Good.
It was one of our workshops. But this is an all over cable. But then look at the sides. It has a star pattern.
Yep. Can you
there? See that star pattern in there? So it had the combination of texture with the cable. And then on the back, there's a cable that goes down the back on each side. And if this is a very flattering fit, this is a wide sweater. It's a very wide sweater,
and Jane is not wide. I mean, you're not. I'm just saying, people know that I'm a bigger gal. I mean, I have bigger body parts, but you don't have that. So talk about the fact that this is wide. And that it can drape and be.
It drapes when you put it on, and this I learned from Hohi on the trip. When you have something wide like that, what happens is it drapes on the side and gives you like a U shape.
Yep.
So then it
makes you look narrower.
Looks narrower. It doesn't make you look wide because you have that drape on the
That's
sides.
her whole boxy,
the boxy
sweater kind of component.
Yeah,
but
we talked
it's
about
the drop shoulder. It's almost poncho-like. In a sweater form, right? Like it's form. That everything kind of hangs down.
Everything hangs down. Great with jeans. I throw it on with, whatever. So that's the Vivi. I made it in Harrisville. What's their real crunchy yarn? I can't remember. Harrisville Designs. I can't remember the name of it.
I
have it on there.
Yeah.
It's there. And then I'm going to show my...
Oh, because it's glorious. It's so pretty. So this is my pretty boxes. And
you can see I made 3/4 sleeve.
Yep.
And I did some yarn management because I didn't want to open another skein of something. And this was Mad Tosh DK. I splurged
But I do love the rib on this sweater in the colors. Like it was one of my favorite things about designing it, and I know a lot of people just did solid instead of using the colors, but I do really love the colors. So I'm gonna do a second one because we're going to Rhinebeck with a group of friends, and the Madison Knitters Guild chose this sweater as they're going by bus. So there are 50 of them, and they're knitting this sweater to bring to wear. They didn't have to knit it to get on the bus, but I had a ton of sales because I offered them a coupon code, and I cannot wait to see all the colors, right? All the different combinations, because just the testers doing the combinations. And so Matt is going with me, and he's casting one on, and he'll be the first male that's made one. And I didn't think at the time that I should be thinking about fitting for a man's body in that way, and I named it Pretty Boxes. So we're calling his Handsome Boxes. And he's knit enough sweaters that
he can modify wherever he needs to.
And he said, I don't think it'll be a problem. I've made yoke sweaters. They're not my favorite fitting, but he really wants to. And I'm so honored that he would take it on himself, right? To be like, I'll knit that for you and wear it when we go to Rhinebeck.
He can narrow this. He can narrow this down so you don't have all that extra there. He can just cut this out.
Yeah, and he's only a 42 bust, right?
Yeah,
like he's just chest for, you know, Cori. But yeah, so we'll see how he decides to do his. But I loved your color choice in this.
Thank
like
you.
from the minute I saw it in the skeins when I came into the shop, I just think it just sings, and I'm giddy that I'm gonna go take a picture with all these women. I mean,
Yeah,
I've never
that's gonna
had
be
that
fun.
I've
On
never
the
had
hill
that
over
many
there?
people. Yeah,
Yay.
knit like all at once. Like I might occasionally
few.
one in a while, maybe, but this is gonna be like big time. I'm just feeling really
Yeah.
So thank you for showing
Oh,
that.
you're welcome. It was a lovely knit. And I do
Oh, it
wear
was a disaster test knit, but it's a lovely sweater.
okay.
And I talked about it at length. The struggle that my new tech editor and I had, and the how that got messed up so badly. We still double check our versions now, and we put our initials on the version at the bottom and the date. Like, we're so over cautious now because of what that mess that happened.
Yeah.
And
It's okay. And then one of my other favorite, and then I do have a few accessories. It's not all sweaters.
It can be sweaters if they're your favorite.
I did a
We
Fern and
have
Feather.
not
I've
seen
made
one
this.
of these yet.
Really?
That you have shown. And that's what I love about having the Chatting with Friends. Other than the pretty boxes, because I did it, and we haven't had a lot of Marie Greene, so this is lovely because people are getting a whole different, inspiration point.
So Fern and Feather, it's a classic Jen Steingass.
Yep.
I've knit this 3 times.
Oh, really?
I did one of the like the spin cycle-y type ones for the yoke one on one of them.
Okay.
That's at home. And then this one is made with the Sun Valley fibers.
Oh,
Duh.
okay. I was like,
Sorry.
Madison, the yarn store? I went
Sun
the
Valley
wrong way.
fibers.
Sun Valley.
Sun Valley.
You know what? And I can feel it because her worsted is heavy.
It is a
She
heavy
has
worsted.
a heavy it's a heavy weight. It weighs a lot. Her sweaters in worsted weigh a lot, and they're not that much thicker in like the yardage per grams, because I've looked, but they still are. Like, I have a couple by her.
Right.
I do want to knit this because I think it's just very graphic yet soft. Like it's I'm such a bold aesthetic, and this is really graphic, yet this part makes it so soft.
And I did do the waist shaping on it.
Okay.
It calls for waist shaping. You don't have to do waist shaping, but I did on this one.
I think if you have a waist, go for it.
It's a pretty simple repeat once you get going on your
Well, no
color work.
long floats,
No long
probably.
floats. No,
like you
no,
don't have to.
you don't have to catch.
You don't have to trap because stuff's pretty close together.
Yeah, you don't have to catch. So so that's one of my other favorites.
That's really nice.
I love the colors.
I do.
How the colors
I
came
love
out.
the colors. Yep.
Yeah. Probably some other people that you haven't. Do you have Skeindeer knits?
No.
She does.
I know her very well. I know of her. I have one of her. What is
mittens.
it? Nope. Her new.
Oh, she's got. Is it the library?
Yes.
The librarian vest.
Yes.
No, yeah, that's her newest, I think, isn't it?
Is it librarian?
Or the library vest or something like that. Yeah.
It's a vest that I put in my queue.
Yeah. Yep. So this is
Along with 300 other.
So I have made, I don't even want to know how many of her designs. I think I've made the first 3 sets of mitten patterns that the clubs that she did. I made the first 2 sets, all of them, all of the designs. And then this last one I've done like 3 or 4 of them. So I really like how her patterns are written and the charts. This one is the Speedy Spunni. So this one's a bulky weight, and I did it in the Lopey bulky. But it's really nice. I washed it, so you can tell it's not quite as scratchy, but But I've done hers in like the Rama yarn and then the Lopey yarn. And
are you a mitten knitter lover?
I loved
Me too. And what do people not see? Like, people
they get mad at
rave
me.
about socks. Rave, rave, rave. That's all you hear all day long. And you go, I love a good mitten. And they go,
they look at you funny.
a mitten? And you're like, your heel, I will take my thumb over your heel any day. But like, I love knitting a good mitten. I feel like I found you as a soulmate in the mitten love.
Yes, I love mittens. And plain mittens, I'll do plain mittens. I'll do color work mittens. I'll do cabled mittens.
I love lined mittens, knitting a lining to tuck up inside. really love
I just finished
making.
a pair of cable mittens that was, the guild here got some yarn from the sheep from the zoo. So I made those, so that's going back on their zoo auction. So I made these cable mittens for that.
How cool is that?
That's that's a
neat.
perfect little thing to put on an auction to.
Okay, I'm gonna put that up there, but that's
one of her designs.
Yep.
Lovely designs. Just love her designs.
Yeah.
Highly recommend her patterns. Really, really good. I've taught classes with this.
Okay.
For color work.
Yeah.
This is how I teach color work.
Oh,
is with
okay.
a mitten.
Mitten.
Mm-hmm.
On magic loop or double points?
Whatever they prefer.
Oh, okay.
I do these magic. No, I do 2 circs now.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I've converted myself.
That's what the people in my little mitten
Two
class,
circs.
my little Advent mitten class, are using is 2 circs. I use double points because I'm old, and that's how I learned.
they're comfortable with it.
But and I'm so much faster. Like I have tried the other 2 ways. I have taught the other way.
Yep.
I'm so much faster on my double points.
So this designer is Jenny Noto. She's wanded something on Ravelry, but this is the Tentacula
Yeah, you have
hat.
to hold that close because it is really cool.
So when you look at how she pulled up her yarns,
So right here,
yeah, right through there
pulled these
on both
up
sides,
and pulled these
Yeah.
up.
she has a whole series of hats based on Harry Potter.
Okay.
So if you haven't heard of her, go look up her, and they're lovely. She has good instructions too.
Okay.
Her picture instructions are really well done on her designs. So we did actually a knit along the pom pom. This is a pom pom can come out, so it's just tied in.
Yep,
That's why you see that. But I just think they're the cutest. So you can see how cute they are. Aren't they cute?
Really cute.
And they're great with
It's
a
really
hand-dyed
cute.
yarn.
It's really cute. I love that.
So like a Malabrigo
Yeah.
works really well. This was Cato.
Like a Malabrigo chunky?
Chunky.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a Cato chunky.
Yeah.
Cato
I
from
have
Minnesota.
I'm honestly,
Shelley's.
I'm sitting here. I have 2 Cato chunkies at home in my wine rack because it doesn't hold wine anymore. It holds chunky yarn. It sits on the floor in my dining room, and I almost got rid of it because it was always empty. And I was like, I'm gonna put some yarn in there and use it.
But
So
yeah,
that
so
would work
yeah,
great
you can
for
see
that.
how fun that is, and with the color.
And we said Cato Yarn Company, like you would all
I'll
know what that is. But it's Mankato, where I went to college, is the name of the town. It's in the southern Minnesota, and she is out of that area. So she calls her, and kind of people in that area called it Cato. Like there's
You go to
the
Cato, and it's
Cato
Cato
Bowl
Mountain.
and the
It's
Cato Mountain, right? Like but it's Mankato is the name of the
Yeah.
town, and so that's what the yarn is coming from.
And this is one of her other patterns. This is the Veela Beanie. It's another one you can kind of see. I made it with monos.
Here, I'll hold it so you can
Yeah,
point
there you
out.
go. So this has like a design that kind of goes up the side and tweaks, and then these little flower poofs in here. You can't really see it with this yarn. It's probably not the best yarn to do it in, but it's really fun.
I think like you can totally
isn't that
see
fun?
it. Like you can see stuff's going on, and you can see this.
Yeah,
And I love this colorway.
yeah.
It's a little. I don't know. When I looked at it, I thought red. On there, it
looks more orange. It's red in person.
But I love that color.
Yeah.
Only because people are going to be like, of course, Cori likes this orange. No, it really
not
is
orange.
more red. It's really more red. I don't have to have everything orange in my life, but
This is the Granger Toque. So you can see you can see
lots
on
of
that
texture. Yes.
And I like texture.
Me too.
Keeps me interested.
I like texture better than lace if I have a choice.
Yeah.
I do like doing texture.
This one was done in Malabrigo worsted, so
Okay.
yeah. So I had some of that. Needs a pom pom. This pattern comes in fingering to bulky.
Oh, okay.
So you buy one pattern and she has
all the sizes.
all the sizes for all the different. So whatever you have in your stash,
You can make work.
you can make work. You can make work.
That's lovely.
Which I really like about her too. She gives you other options within the pattern for it.
That's great.
Yeah, she's a good designer too.
Excellent.
So yeah, another design you might not have known about.
No, no, for sure. That's why I love doing this. So the change for me in doing the podcast this way has made it feel fresh again, because now I'm like looking at stuff that I've seen this on Ravelry, but I don't think unless you see it in person, you realize how that is. Like, that's really interesting that those stitches are pulled up like that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I said this would take about an hour, maybe.
Well, we had an interruption too.
And we did. 59:56 people. No, actually, who I really told was my parents and my husband. I said it shouldn't take us more than an hour. Like, and I don't know that we can start right on time because if she has a customer, right? So we did pretty well.
Get through
all that. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
I love coming home because I know I can stop in here and get that feeling. I own way too much yarn and I don't knit anymore because I'm designing, and now I'm starting to get more and more yarn support, so I'm not even using my own yarn in the projects that I own. So this closet is just like looking at me. Well, I want to thank Jane so much. Prairie Road Yarn Store in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. On your trips from the east to the west or the west to the east on I-229, 229,
on I-90.
Any of those will get you here. Like, I'm trying to think, is there anything else that gets you here? But yeah, it's definitely, it could be your destination yarn store, and you could reach out ahead of time to find out if she has classes going on or trunk shows. You have several trunk shows.
So Mode Knits here. And then I have a trunk show with monos for the Serena, and then I have Yarn Truck Adventure coming in August. So yeah, lots of things going on. And then I'm finally getting a ribbon cutting with the chamber. I finally organized that.
Oh, good. When is it?
It's middle of July.
Okay.
Yeah, July 19th. I'll post it on my...
So if you are a Midwest person, or if you're just traveling, like I know tons of people go to the Black Hills. That's a destination trip.
I was surprised last summer how many people were coming through. I have one thing that was really good for me was the national park hats. I have 2 national park hat kits from Nancy Bates for the 2 parks in South Dakota with local yarn in them. So that
there
was
you go,
just
right?
Like,
because I did have a gal get in touch, and she said, we're going to go across, and I said, stop at El's Oasis. It is you got to stop at El's Oasis on the river. Go see the Freedom Monument, right? But like they have pie, and they went twice. They went on their way out and their way back, and I was like, oh gosh, there are things that you can definitely. There's destinations here in South Dakota for people to see, and I think
they're beautiful.
Most people know about the Black Hills. And how far of a drive would it be from Sioux Falls to Black Hills? It's 5 hours, about 5 hours. 5. So it's on the opposite side of the state, and it's flat and
straight
lonely.
Across.
There's nothing there. Really good knitting time.
It's good knitting time, but it's also beautiful country. When you get to the river and you come over the hill to the river.
Yes.
And the river, by the way, is the Missouri.
Right, because we talk about it as if it's the river, but it's not the Mississippi.
And it splits the state in half. So it's East River and West River. So if you hear people talking about South Dakota and they say East River or West River, then that's why. But so there's a little fun fact about South Dakota. And it really isn't a lot to look at, but for me, it's so open,
beautiful,
and so
in a way, because people from other parts of the country, like especially like even Wisconsin, where it's so hilly,
right,
so bluffs, right, that they would never you would never seen it. You wouldn't see how flat it could be.
Yeah, well, and dry
until you get to the river, where then it goes
to the river.
Whoa.
Yeah, no, I love living here. It's a great town to live in. It's an easy town to live in.
Yes,
it's easy town to get around in, raise kids in. It's just a lot of positives, and we have Broadway shows and stuff like that come. I mean, and it's 5 minutes from my house. I mean,
my mom and dad have seen a lot of theater too.
Yeah, in
this town. So
well,
thank you so much.
Welcome.
I really appreciate you letting me come in at Friday night at 6:00 and record a podcast so that I can have more content for all of you. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
We're back. We just walked away, and I was like, oh, show it. We have to show it.
So I forgot about this one. I've knit this one twice. This is my light. It's called Snows. It's a Let Lopi pattern, so it's out of a Lopi book. You can get it on Ravelry, but you can see the color work there. It was one of my dream sweaters to knit a Lopi sweater. You know, a lot of people want to knit a Lopi sweater.
No, for sure. And I want to go to Iceland.
Yeah.
And I want to buy yarn in the grocery store.
Yep. And so it has this beautiful color work.
I mean, does snows mean snow?
I think
because this looks like snow. Like it just feels like a snow sweater.
Yeah.
It's just, it's glorious. And so you used Let Lopi, but that's how the snows has the umlaut over it.
Yeah.
You can find snooze, whatever they would say. Yeah, but yeah.
But it's easy on Ravelry, and I'll have the link. I have it on my Ravelry page, so there'll be a link to it. All of these, I have, almost all of them, I have a Ravelry page for. Yep. So we'll get that to
now we had
Cori
to add that at the end.
Yeah, we'll have to add this one at the end. But this was a really cool knit, one of my favorites.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
It's really pretty.
Yeah. So another little thing.